Welcome back to another episode of Tactics, the series where we bring you the specific, exact, detailed actions that we take at Common Thread Collective to help brands drive predictable, profitable growth. And today is a special one. You are going to hear from my podcast co-host, Richard Gaffin. And before he was the co-host for the E-commerce Playbook podcast, Richard has been a copywriter at CTC. He's been a creative strategist. He led our branding department. And early on, he worked with me to develop a class that we called Ad Philosophy 101, where we built the foundation for CTC's creative strategy. Needless to say, this is a man who is also a published author of his own novel and knows a lot about conversion copywriting fundamentals. And he's going to walk you through a framework today for thinking about how to write better, higher converting copy, which is such a massively underappreciated variable in your ad performance. So you're going to enjoy this. And of course, today's episode and the entire Tactics series is brought to you by our partners at Recharge and Rich Panel, two hand-selected partners that we chose because of their commitment to helping you produce predictable, profitable growth. I'm going to be going into detail later in the episode about how each of those partners help you to accomplish that. But for now, let's get started with Richard.
Welcome to another episode of Tactics. And today we're going to be talking about conversion copywriting fundamentals. And in a second, I'll get into maybe defining that a little bit more. But first, I want to say who I am. I'm Richard Gaffin, Director of Digital Product Strategy here at Common Thread Collective. Of course, if you're in admission, you are most likely familiar with me or have even talked to me before joining. So I don't expect that that's new to you. However, I do want to mention one specific piece of credential, I guess, which is that I started here at CTC as a copywriter, moved into sort of managing our branding department, which we had for a while, and then later became a creative strategist, shifting into becoming the senior copywriter for Common Thread as a whole before starting my current position. So all that to say, the bulk of, or the majority of my time here at CTC has been spent doing and thinking about copywriting. So basically what this presentation contains is a distillation of what I've learned about copywriting and takes some of that and then applies it specifically to our framework of how we think about creative. So, and I'll get into that a little bit later as well. But first, let's go over the agenda for this particular presentation so you know what you're in for. So first, we're going to talk about copywriting as execution. And we're going to recap the offer angle audience framework for creative. If you attended our Infinite Meta Ads workshop, you'll be familiar with that already. But it is important in this context, I think, to go over that again, just briefly, so we understand where copywriting fits into it. Oftentimes, I think copywriting can be treated as an afterthought, which is ironic given that I think copywriting is also the most important element of creative strategy, which is articulating an offer in such a way that when a person reads it and understands it, they are compelled to actually make the purchase. So we're going to talk about where copywriting fits into that. Second, we're going to talk about, I call it the first rule of writing, but this is a framework for thinking about writing in general that I think applies very specifically to copywriting. But I just want to cover that first because this is a helpful tip for all of your writing, whether that's emails or landing pages or whatever the case may be. 3, we're going to talk about the process of gathering information, specifically what information you need to gather. Every great copywriter, every great creative strategist is a researcher as well. So we're going to talk about the fundamentals of knowing what you need to know before you go out and do your work. And then part 4, or rather chapter 4, let's say, we're going to get into 5 keys to great copy. These are really actionable, very specific things that you can put into place right now to make your copy better. And then finally, part 5, we'll have some sort of cheat sheets, overviews, summaries of what we've talked about so that you can reference those easily.
Interrupting this episode of Tactics for a quick announcement. Everything we do at CTC is about helping you create predictable, profitable growth. And you've heard me talk about the theme of margin innovation and how the next wave of growth in our industry is going to come from finding ways to improve your business margin over time. Well, our partner, Rich Panel, for this episode is one of the tools to help you do that. They are AI-powered customer support that allows you to 10x the volume of customer support 24/7 around the world instantaneously. And here's the key, y'all. You can do it without sacrificing quality. The work that they are producing from these AI bots is remarkable. And I've seen it not just for customer service, I've seen it for ad moderation, which is a product feature that they have coming. This is a way that your business is going to be able to be more efficient, save money without sacrificing any quality or experience for your customer. Check them out, richpanel.com.
So let's get into part one here. Copywriting is execution. Now, why do I say that? When we talk about offer, angle, and audience, or maybe I'll frame it this way. When we talk about creative, we usually talk about two things. One is the overall strategy, which really often is encapsulated in what is the need for volume, right? And particularly in the way we think about it, we talk about how much creative you need. And then on the other side of it is talking about execution, but in the sense of production, right? Like, what are the tools that we can use to produce more ads more quickly? Give me some Photoshop templates. Give me some names of some freelancers overseas who can do this faster. Is there a way we can use AI? All that type of stuff. But missing in the middle is the most important part, which is where the actual strategy happens, which is figuring out what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. And then once you have that, providing it to or if you can provide a good idea to the person who's going to execute your idea, that's the only way that fundamentally the ad is going to work, right? You can produce all the ads you want, but if none of them are speaking properly to the audience, they're never going to work, right? So copywriting is execution. It's the way you articulate a strategy and turn it into a reality. So I'm going to quickly talk about some definitions here really quick. So again, if anybody attended the Infinite Meta Ads workshop, you'll be familiar with our idea of offer, angle, and audience. This is basically how we think about an ad concept, right? So if you ask the question, what is an ad? We have a specific definition for that, which we'll get into on the next slide.
Quick time out from your tactics episode for me to tell you about our partner, Recharge. In my life, I have 3 little kids and I'm trying to run a business. And one of the only ways I can do that is by having habits and routines. And 2 of those that help my family a ton are, 1, our Crunch Labs box subscription for all of our kids. They wait by the door. They can't wait to get it. They get 3 hours of playtime. My wife and I get some great conversation. It's a critical part of making our life work. The second is my Create Wellness gummy creatine subscription, 40 years old, trying to stay in shape, trying to maintain a healthy life amidst all the chaos. And that's a critical part. And both of these are powered by Recharge. Recharge has been the best subscription app in the Shopify ecosystem for a long time. They power some of the best brands in the world, like Crunch Labs and Create Wellness, alongside Curology and Cometeer and Billy and Bloom and Vital Proteins and tons of other brands that you care about. And if there's any tactic that you as a business should consider for driving improved LTV, compounding the values of your customers, expanding margin over time, it's subscription. There's really no great other way to do it more effectively. Now, not every product is perfect for that, but if you are, Recharge is the app for you. We're grateful for them for sponsoring this tactics episode and helping to bring so much value to you all. Check them out, getrecharge.com.
But the idea is that an ad concept comes at the intersection of these 3 things: offer, which is what you're selling; angle, which is why you're selling it; and then audience, which is to whom you are selling whatever it is you're selling. And this is helpful for us because it helps us set definitions. Now, there's a particular practical use for this for us as an agency, which is it helps define deliverables, right? Which is to say, like, if we say to a client, we will deliver 50 ads to you this month, we need to know exactly what an ad is. Is it, if my ad is a picture of a shoe and there's a square version of it and a vertical version of it, is that 2 ads or is that 1 ad? We would say, of course, that that's 1 ad, but this is the way we define it. So the concept is the offer, angle, and audience coming together, knowing what you're selling, why you're selling it, and to whom you're selling it. Then the ad are 3 different creative executions of that. And then finally, the asset level, let's say, which is that one on the far right there, is the different size iterations of that ad. So when we talk about copywriting, what we're talking about is going from here, if you can see my cursor, let's go back, going from concept to ad. So you can say, I'm selling, let's say, a pair of shoes. The reason I'm selling it is because, or maybe let's go to audience. I'm selling it to, let's say, younger people who are like sneakerheads, right? They're really into the way it looks. And that suggests an angle, which is like, let's talk about the specific, like we'll talk about the way it looks, right? Or the ad needs to be about like, this looks cool. So then once we have that concept, these things are together, then producing the ad, there's sort of a step missing in terms of thinking about how do I translate this sort of very almost scientific concept? Like I'm going to do, this is the offer, this is the audience, this is the angle. How do I turn that into something that would actually speak to the person? And I would say in the case of shoes, oftentimes you don't need to use any copy at all because the value of the shoe to the person is the way that it looks. And including copy might just get in the way. But let's say these are like maybe orthopedic shoes. And what you want to do is emphasize the fact that they're comfortable. Now you have to find a way to say that in such a way that people want to listen, right? And that's how you get from the concept to the ad. So this is all a long way of saying that the copywriting piece is translating something abstract, which is the concept, into something concrete, which is the ad. Hey folks, thanks for listening to this preview episode. To hear the episode in full, check out Admission at youradmission.co. That's YOURADMISSION.co.